Ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and I know up until this point I'd avoided talking about the whole debacle surrounding the Culling 2, which, let's face it, the game is garbage. It's one of, if not the worst Battle Royale games to be released in the past year, and it certainly has been the least well-received Battle Royale that I can think of, and there are a couple of reasons behind that. The first primary reason is the first game, the Culling, which I will freely admit I never personally played, and I didn't even purchase the game until earlier today. The day one version of the first game was extremely well received, and it was widely reported that the game had just had a lot going for it. Oh, the graphics were a bit simplistic, but I personally have always said that graphics do not a good game make. But it was undeniable to most people that played the Culling that there was something special about the game and its character and personality that really resonated with people. And then Xaviant went down a long, dark road of developing the game and making changes that made people like the game less and less as time went on, until when the game left early access, it was almost unrecognizable from the early version of the game that so many people had loved and enjoyed. Basically, Xaviant fell into the developer's trap of fixing something until it breaks, failing to properly listen to their community, and generally going down a path that all but completely doomed them to failure. And then the Culling 2 happened, and the backlash was so massive that it would give a rubber band whiplash. It also didn't help that the Culling 2 was a buggy, broken mess with barely any time between the announcement of the game and its launch, and that, as a successor to the Culling, it was neither the game that anyone asked for nor wanted. And as always, I'll do my best to save my own opinions until after we get through the salient facts, so bear with me for a few moments as we get through the facts before Feel's portion of the video. Xaviant, the developers of the Culling and the Culling 2, released an announcement video earlier today, and as always, a link to that video will be down in the description below. And the information contained within that video certainly did raise some eyebrows. Well, my eyebrows were raised at least. The first big statement made was that the Culling 2 is being pulled from the markets. It's no longer for sale, and when you go to the Steam store page for the game, the option to buy is indeed missing. And before everyone rage crushes their keyboards over buying a game that will no longer be sold, Xaviant did something else that I was not expecting. They stated that they will be working with all of their distributors to make sure that people who bought the Culling 2 gets a refund. That means that there is no need for too much buyer's remorse on that end. Now, in addition to all of that, Xaviant also announced their desire to make amends and make sure that they do their community right. To that end, they also directly apologized to everyone for how they handled the development of the Culling 2 and the Culling, and have announced some big changes for the first game that fans of the earlier versions of that game should be at least interested in. The Culling will be reverted back to its day one version, which is already live on the Culling test servers. Now, this means that all of the game aspects, such as the perk system and everything else that everyone enjoyed within the early versions of the game, will be making a return, and Xaviant will stick very close to the feature designs of the version of the Culling that people so enjoyed before it was messed up by its own developers. Now, in addition to that, Xaviant will return to open development of the Culling in order to make sure that the game is given an honest opportunity to shine, and to help reinvigorate the player base for the Culling, the game will also be going free to play. And I'm going to say something that I don't say very often on this channel, and feel free to disagree with me all you wish, but I'm actually choosing to support the developers in this decision. Now, with some other developers, I know most of my subscribers would be wondering why I'm not tearing these developers to shreds and force-feeding them their own crocodile tears over the failure of their buggy, broken travesty of a game that seemed to be pushed out the door as a lame duck cash grab, chasing a trend, and doing so very poorly. But there are a couple of aspects that makes me feel that Xaviant are in earnest with their statements. So, first, I can see the game being removed from sale. I think most any developer would do that after recognizing how big of a flop the game was going to be, and instead of investing resources into paying for servers and maintaining the game, it would be far easier and more cost-effective to simply pull the plug. Doing that alone, however, would create an even larger PR nightmare for the developers, and that is an extremely easy trap to fall into. Most larger development studios or publishers would do something that outdated the outrage, like what happened with the launch of No Man's Sea. Sorry, I promised myself I'd stop saying that. Sea of Thieves. A game that launched with grandiose statements about how wonderful it was and then left a giant promissory note where the majority of the game was supposed to be. Xaviant could have done something similar, but they'd be stuck with a game that would at best be thought of as mediocre unless a miracle happened. They instead decided to give a refund to everyone that bought the game, and that's a huge thing to do for an indie studio. By nature, their pockets normally are not all that deep, and that sort of blow would be a death blow to many indie studios out there. Then they announced that they would be going back and fixing what they did wrong with their first game and will do what they can to make things right with their community. Now, I could very easily come up with reasons for why this sort of stance could be purely based out of a desire for self-preservation and greed, nothing more. Cue the accusations of Xaviant T. Martin-style crocodile tears minus the dog, the fancy house, and the nice car. I could also very easily make points that the developers are going out of their way to make sure they make amends for a grave mistake, and that their actions here are born of a desire to make things right. And I'm of a mind to give them the benefit of the doubt on this. Yes, they made a mistake. They made a huge mistake, but they are doing everything that could reasonably be expected of a development team to set things straight and to make sure to also correct the mistakes they made with their first game, which might give gamers a chance to wash the bitterness that was the Culling 2 out of their mouths with what everyone agreed on as a superior game. Now, there's a very real chance at redemption here, and I honestly believe Xaviant is setting themselves on the right path with this decision. However, I'm also reminded of the age-old adage, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Am I being too forgiving here and placing a scorpion on my back? I kinda doubt it, but the only way to know with any degree of certainty is to simply wait and see. But as always, please feel free to let me know what you think down in the comments below. Is this a good move by Xaviant? Do you think they're on the level here, or do you think it's just T. Martin-style apology video and backpedaling? I'm interested to know your thoughts. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit that like button, and if you're new here, that subscribe button could probably use some love as well. Links to my social media, Discord, and Patreon are down there in the description as well, in case you feel like being a little extra generous. Thanks so much for watching. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and I'll see you next time.